Hi, everybody. Mitch Tadbem here. Thanks for joining me today for the Security News Update. In the security and privacy section, we have something that's kind of serious. Twitter apparently, or Twitter's Grok, apparently allows users to undress pictures of people who are unsuspecting, don't know anything about it, but certainly haven't consented. Apparently, that also includes children, which in the United States constitutes child porn, which is a felony, not good stuff at all. But for adults, it's, clearly also, in many states, not legal, certainly not moral. And so it's not clear exactly what it's going. The Grok has been blocked in a couple of countries, Indonesia, Malaysia in particular, over that. A number of the countries in the EU are investigating Twitter over that. Musk seems resistant to actually programming Grok to stop doing that. Not sure why. He created a kind of weird workaround that said that only paying customers can do that, which I'm not sure how that helps anything. In fact, if anything, it seems like he's sanctioning it, which puts him in more legal peril. So it's unclear, but there's a lot of legal stuff going on in the AI around the AI world, and it's going to be a very muddy world for a while. For example, moving on to the AI alert section, Reddit is suing Perplexity and their suppliers over stealing their data. XAI, going back to Elon, suing California over a law that requires them to reveal their training data. So there's lawsuits going on. I don't think this will get cleaned up anytime soon. I don't think it's the reason why you shouldn't use AI. But just know that you're kind of in a little bit of a muddy water, and probably will be for a while. And hopefully, boards are smart enough to start asking you as management, well, how are we protecting ourselves in this AI, bit of a landmine? Obviously, we can assist you with that and assist your board with that. So, it's just, you're in the early adopter stages, and early adoption is always a bit messy. The question keeps coming up, can we wait to become CMMC compliant until we're awarded a contract? And the answer to that, and we're starting to see some definition on that now, is not only no, but hell no. First of all, legally, you can't be awarded the contract if the contract requires CMMC compliance if you are not CMMC compliant. So you can't wait to be awarded it because you won't be awarded it. But what we're also starting to see is more of, I'm just going to read you a quote out of a particular Army RFP. It said, interested vendors must demonstrate possession of Cybersecurity Maturity Model Certification Level 2 and include this verification in their request for a copy of the RFP, basically. Upon confirmation of the vendor CMMC Level 2 capability, the desired characteristics that they're bidding on or putting out bids for will be provided to assist vendors in their response to in this particular RFP, it's a Group 4 unmanned aerial system. So we're seeing more of this now, and, the rule just went into effect November 10th. We're going to see a lot more of this, I think, in the near term. So if you're waiting, probably not a great plan. All right. In the reference section, speaking of AI, NIST has released a draft cybersecurity profile for AI. It covers, they're working with MITRE in doing this, and it includes securing AI systems, conducting AI-enabled cyber defense, and thwarting AI-enabled cyber attacks. So that's all good stuff. And AI is it's here to stay, whether you like it or not. It's just here to stay. Teledyne settles another False Claims Act case. So Teledyne has a little bit of a history. They cleaned up their act in the last several years for sure. But in the 90s and aughts, they were really challenged, I think, to get their act together. In this particular case, it was parts for ejection seats that didn't meet the contract specs. So, the FCA can be used for a lot of different things, not just bad cybersecurity, but bad practices in general. Under education, this one's kind of interesting. Cyber insurance companies are now starting to be proactive and recommend security practices, and in some cases demanding it. If you don't implement it, we're just not going to write the policy. And a lot of these are very inexpensive. Things like immutable backups. An immutable backup is a backup that can't be changed, can't be deleted by a hacker. If you need assistance trying to figure out what these requirements are and how to implement them, please reach out to us. In the breaches department, we have, I didn't even know this was a thing. I think this is kind of a generic term, Tinder for Nazis. They're hit by 100 gigs of data leaked, and that includes photos and other sensitive data. It's all available for download for free. And the sites that are involved are Europids. I have no clue what that is. White Child and White Deal. And some of these are apparently dating sites. Users all over the world apparently participate in this, and now it's all outed. The feds have been working for a while on trying to improve Internet of Things security or IoT security. The challenge is that there's a lot more IoT out there now than there is regular human traffic. Whether it's that internet connected refrigerator of yours or the baby monitor, whatever it is. And if that's the security sucks, then the rest of your networking computers and data is all at risk. So they had a plan. It was coming together. It was voluntary. So, the theory was there would be market pressures to go do it, which I think there would be. And they carved up a deal with Underwriters Lab, who generally has a good reputation. Well, it turns out that they have labs in China that test their products. And from their perspective, that's probably convenient because most of the product comes out of China. But if you, if you're in China and you review a Chinese product and you say the product is not secure, it's not clear what's going to happen to you and your family. So Underwriters Lab, and this is kind of a polite way of saying it, resigned from the position of running this program. So now there's nobody running the program. Whether the program actually happens now is unclear at all. Does NIST, try to find somebody else to run the program? It takes a lot to run a program of this scale. So it's unclear right now. It's just on hold, and you're on your own when it comes to Internet of Things security. The problem is it's the other guy that you're worried about, right? When here in Colorado, I'm not worried about me driving in the snow. I'm worried about the other guy driving in the snow, crashing into me. So, speaking of failed government projects, the United Kingdom government very publicly admitted that their cybersecurity policy strategy over the last 10 or 20 years has been an utter failure. And that was evidenced by all of the breaches in the UK last year in 2025. Bottom line was, there was a lot of words, but not a lot of enforcement, kind of like what we saw with CMMC until 2025 when the government started to put some teeth in it and said, sorry, you're not going to get the contract. So one of the things they're talking about changing, this is a draft at this point, so it's not law, is having all these cybersecurity policies apply to the government as well as private industry, which seems like that's a big duh. So we'll see what happens with that and whether anybody follows up on that and says, yeah, that's a good idea. But the UK is at least admitting that what they've done hasn't been working. Some researchers have come up with a strategy for automating what's called data poisoning, meaning that if you're an unauthorized user and you get access to some of this data that we're feeding into AI, you won't be able to use it. It won't work for you. It's a very interesting thing. It says that basically, if you're an authorized user, you're going to have kind of the secret sauce that will allow you to go off and ignore the corrupt data and only look at the good data. Different people have different opinions about whether this is going to work or not, but I definitely think we need to do something. So we'll see whether this works or not. An organization called Anna's Archive stole 300 terabytes of music from Spotify, and they claimed that they were preserving it in case of some natural disaster which had Spotify disappear off the internet. Like that's going to happen. In any case, this is now being available for download. They claim it's like 99% of the music that people listen to, which is different than 99% of the music that's hosted on Spotify. But still, 300 terabytes is a lot of music. There's a piece on cameras everywhere, and that might give people some insight into why this Jeffrey Epstein thing has been so concerning. Supposedly there's cameras all over his private island, capturing who knows what and who's got copies of what. So, if probably not, if you were on Epstein's plane. I know I wasn't on Epstein's plane. I wouldn't want to be on Epstein's plane, but for people who were on Epstein's plane and went to visit his island, there's probably a lot of stuff that was recorded and possibly stuff that you might not be terribly comfortable becoming public, which could explain a lot if that's true. And I suspect apparently it is true. So Californians have a new website called Drop now, which allows you to ask data brokers who are registered in California to remove your data. It's kind of interesting. And there's hundreds and hundreds of data brokers who are registered. Unfortunately, there's a lot that are not, but hundreds and hundreds that are. The fine for data brokers not following the law, which is to remove your data and check every 45 days to see whether you're still on the list or you've added yourself to the list, is something like $250 per violation per person whose data wasn't removed per day. So that's a pretty serious penalty, and maybe that will discourage them from selling your data if you tell them they don't want to. The NSA has a couple of new placeholder leaders because no one at the NSA has been approved by the Senate yet in a long time. So they have some placeholder leaders in cybersecurity and a new deputy director who's a technology guy, a techno weenie. He seems to be pretty good looking at his resume. So we'll see whether maybe that helps the NSA. I'm guessing they're pretty challenged in a lot of different ways, most of which include how do we keep the staff that we have given the current environment. So with that, that's all I have. Anything we can do to help you, we'd be happy to do. Let us know. And until next time, stay safe. Thanks for listening.